Welcome to the Vertical Go-to-Market Podcast, where you'll discover new opportunities to grow your business from 7 figures to 8 from the world's most successful agency and B2B SaaS executives. I'm your host, Corey Quinn. Let's jump into the show. Today, I'm joined by the CEO and founder of Healthlaunchpad, Adam Turinas. Welcome, Adam.
Hello. Hi, Corey. Thank you for having me on the
I'm
show.
super excited for our conversation. Please just tell us a little bit about yourself and what Healthlaunchpad does.
So I'd say this is my part 3 of my career. So first couple of decades was in the traditional agency and digital agency business, working with big agencies. And then I took a weird right turn in Act 2 and I started a healthcare technology company, which I built up and then eventually sold in 2019. And I thought, I want to go back to my first love, which is marketing. And so I thought, hey, I love marketing. I love B2B marketing. And I seem to know a bit about healthcare. In fact, I know a lot about healthcare. And so I thought, what I'll do is I'll start an agency focused exclusively on healthcare technology. So sort of business to business of healthcare. So we don't help hospitals get new patients. We help software companies and services companies get hospitals and insurance companies and things.
So just to clarify, the specific business for Healthlaunchpad is you work with healthcare technology companies who are trying to market their products and services into hospital systems, or what is the typical?
Exactly right. Yes. So okay. Our typical customer, they kind of bifurcate. So we have several large healthcare organizations. So for example, one's called AMN Healthcare. They're a massive staffing company, a multi-billion-dollar publicly traded company. And we work with their language services division. So we're helping them sell to the healthcare system market. So basically hospitals and other ancillary organizations around that. And then the other end of the spectrum, we also work with venture-backed companies. And in those cases, we're often actually acting as their marketing department. So, maybe working with the founder team. So for example, we're working with this amazing AI company called DeepScribe AI, who's raised over $50 million, and they've got this fantastic AI solution, and we are helping them market to the hospital market. And as they're sort of in the early stages, they're sort of outsourcing a lot of their marketing to us. And eventually they'll scale up their marketing team and they'll take it over. And so that's the kind of way we work. And it's essentially our clients fall into those two camps.
Got it. And a couple similarities, I imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong. One is that your clients, whether they be, healthcare tech companies or they're venture-backed businesses, they're all trying to attract more clients within that sort of that hospital and hospital system ecosystem.
Yeah, you got it. The thing they all have in common is business to business, long, complex life sales cycles with complicated buyer collectives with, sometimes several dozen people involved in the sales process. Yeah. The sales cycle can last, over a year in some cases. And so we specialize in that. And what we do, specifically for them is a range of services. So at the heart of it is account-based marketing, which, if you know anything about B2B marketing, is sort of where B2B marketing has been going for the last 15, 20 years. And that's at the foundation of what we do. But we also, we'll do digital marketing. So we do SEO, we do SEM, we'll build websites, we'll do branding, messaging, and demand generation. And we also have, public relations and events specialists as well. What sets us apart from, regular B2B agencies that might be really good at account-based marketing is, the majority of our team have deep expertise in healthcare. So people like myself who've spent, 10 plus years, in fact, many of them are actually even longer than me in healthcare. And so sort of have been in the shoes of the companies that we're selling to. So we know how hard it is. And which is, in healthcare is an important thing because it's the most unusual market. I personally think it's the hardest market to sell into. And I know a lot of people, whether you're in financial services, because you might say it's the hardest market to sell to. And I've worked in financial services, and I can tell you healthcare is harder. And so you really do need domain expertise. And so we bring that to bear.
So I would love to dig into that a little bit. Like, besides just understanding sort of background in healthcare, like why is specialization in healthcare, specifically hospitals, why is that important? Why is that, that?
Well, I'll tell you how I ended up making the decision to do this. So, it's 2020, early 2020. By that, and I mean early enough in 2020 that people were talking about COVID in the news, but it wasn't a thing yet. And so I was doing a little consulting on my own. And I always thought, I want to have a business-to-business consulting agency, and we'll do some stuff in healthcare, and then we'll also market to patients. And, I was trying to write the proposition. I found it was like way too amorphous. And I was talking to a good friend of mine who happens to be the chief marketing officer of a large healthcare technology company. And he said, and he's always been, he was my first boss when I moved to the US in the late 80s. And he's always been extremely candid to me. And he said, "Hey, dummy, the only thing you really know anything about that I would credibly hire you for is your knowledge about healthcare. There are millions of people, or, thousands of people who know more about B2B marketing than you do." Whether that's true or not, I sort of took the point and then thought, well, actually, and then I thought, it's too small a market. Do I really want to just focus on that? And then I thought to myself, wait a second. When I was running my own software company, I would every year pay a visit to the big annual global trade show, which is called HIMSS, which is the massive health, this sort of like, Comdex used to be. It's, there are 50,000 attendees at this show. And I thought about the exhibit hall, and the exhibit hall would often take, the size of 5 or 6 football fields, hundreds of exhibitors. And that wasn't every single company that was in healthcare technology or healthcare services. And I thought to myself, if I could serve, if I was to have a business where I served, 1%, 2%, wow, amazing, 5% of the companies that were in that room, I'd have a very successful business. And so I thought, I'm just going to focus on healthcare technology. And then, again, the reason for doing it is that, if you only have to spend 5 minutes in healthcare to understand how hard it is. I'll tell another little story if you want. Is that when I first started in healthcare, this is in 2011. So I'd left the sort of big agency business, and I was doing a bit of consulting with a friend of mine. And it was assessing the strategic relationship between agencies and their clients, or between other strategic partners. And another friend of mine who's a doctor said, "You know what? The methodology that you're talking about would be hyper relevant to healthcare, because the relationship between the physicians and their healthcare systems, and they're dependent on each other, is broken." So I thought, okay, well, why not? We could go pitch that to some hospitals. We went off to our first meeting together to meet with the board of a healthcare system in New Jersey. And when I walked into the hospital, I realized the last time I'd been in a hospital, which is when my son had been born 20 years beforehand. And I thought, I walked into the meeting and I literally hadn't a clue what anybody was saying. It was like I'd gone into a meeting full of Martians. It was their language. I didn't know what they were talking about. Thankfully, my partner happened to be a physician, so he could translate what they were saying. Yeah. And between the two of us, we were able to actually kind of figure out what our value was going to be to them. And so that business then morphed actually into a software business. I'll spare you all the gory details about running a technology company. But it took me about a year to really feel, to get over the imposter syndrome of being in healthcare, and to feel like I could have a conversation in the C-suite of a healthcare organization and feel like I actually understood the conversation in the room and could add some value. And then it took, then over the next 7 or 8 years with a software company, I then learned how hard it is to actually sell into
Yeah.
healthcare systems, how complicated it is. And so, when I set up Health Launchpad, I realized it's like people in this industry get how hard it is. And so working with a company like mine, where we can actually help, they don't have to teach us healthcare. In fact, in many cases, we're teaching our clients aspects of healthcare that they didn't realize. So that's why I've specialized.
Yeah. And that's a big benefit. I mean, you're doing, and I'll use shorthand, but you're doing ABM for your health tech clients, for these big hospital systems. And so doing it day in, day out, you're gonna learn things about their business, to your point, that they don't even realize yet, because they don't spend all day in marketing, right? And so that's an extreme value add that I saw even in my time at Scorpion with attorneys and whatnot.
That's right. Yeah. Well, on that point, and I think that in my days before healthcare, I thought, actually, coming from the agency business, this sort of traditional agency business, when somebody said healthcare marketing, I thought they were talking about life sciences, pharmaceuticals. It never occurred to me that people would sell to a hospital or or to a health insurance company. And the deeper you get into, the more complex you realize it is. And so the nuances within it are extraordinary. I mean, it was quite interesting. We just completed a project with a very large company, remain nameless, it's a confidential project. And they were looking to enter, they're in the healthcare provider, the hospital-based market, but they're looking to expand into the health insurance market. And they knew enough to be dangerous, but they really didn't feel they knew how this segment within healthcare board. So we went out and conducted some first party research, and were able to create a really precise buyer journey for them. And so, that's the kind of thing which, if you're in that market and you understand it and you can bring that level of specialism to it, it does set you apart.
I imagine from a competitive perspective, you're creating a moat around your business with regard to all of the other generalists or people in healthcare who, like for instance, dentists are, you could say, fall within the umbrella of industry of healthcare, of which there are private practices, there are DSOs, which are multi-location back office type of things. And there's a lot of complexity there. And so for your business, the fact that you've focused in on the art and science of helping businesses to sell to hospital systems, of which I have some professional experience having worked at Scorpion, and I'm familiar with those long buying cycles with many stakeholders at the long board table where you're doing the formal suit and tie pitches. I mean, it is a serious thing. So from a competitive perspective, being able to go in there, speak the language, use the jargon, go toe to toe on that front, that's all awesome. But how many of competitors are there in your space who, let's say, have gone that same distance and could be able to do the same type of things in that boardroom?
So I could name them on one hand, and still have a few things left, actually. I think there are 4 other firms that I can think of that only do healthcare technology and services. And, then there are a few firms that have a strong, sort of a B2B agencies with a strong healthcare practice. However, it's very, very rare that we lose to a competitor. The biggest competition that we have is, there's two. One is inertia. It's just I think with ABM we're not going to do it. But the other big thing, and this was a really sort of tough lesson for me coming back into the agency business after being out of it for a decade, is that our biggest competitor is in-house. And so, we started work with a client the other day, and they're very excited about the work we're going to do with them, and we're helping them get up the ABM curve. but they've already told us. The CEOs, I was in a meeting with the CEO and the head of marketing, and the CEO told me, so it's great. So when these guys have taught you how to do it, you're going to take this in-house, right? Yeah. Okay, good. And it's like, okay, wow.
Right. Well, I think
should have charged you more.
Well, I'll say that typically, I've seen that in my own experience happen typically more often when it is a larger enterprisey like a type of business. Whereas, let's say, on the other hand, an attorney, a small law firm, a couple of attorneys, they're not going to go through the effort to build up a whole marketing team. However, at a hospital system, a multi-billion-dollar, multi-location business that has definitely a huge investment in marketing, thinking about this idea of, well, this is just a new skill set that we need to train for. We'll hire this specialty agency. We'll learn what we need to learn, and then we'll sort of move them down the road. How do you combat that?
Well, I tell you, this goes back to my agency days and also my software days, which is, frankly, I would say on the software side, we were probably even more effective at expanding an existing customer than winning new customers. In fact, there was a couple of years where we added some logos, but but most of our growth actually came from existing customers. And the same on the agency side. I had a relationship with one client where we 10x'd it over 5 years. And that's down to two things. It's down to, number one, it's down to listening, and listening really hard to make sure that you really understand what the challenges are that your client has, and then looking for opportunities to deliver additional value. So they're always looking for help with something, and so, for example, with one of our clients, we've been training them, kind of teaching them how to do ABM and to do certain aspects of marketing, and actually introducing them to vendors that we work with. And now they've added some teammates, and they're going to kind of take a lot of that in-house. So that part, so the marketing team is, we've still got a great relationship. We're still working with them, but the level has gone down. But in the process, we also understood that they're trying to really change up the way that their customer success people engage with their clients. They were trying to improve customer experience, like transform it. And so we've done some work in that area, and we were able to show them some work that we did for a healthcare franchise called Restore, where we basically developed a playbook to train their clinicians how to be salespeople. And so we're going to do that work for them. And so we've kind of moved department. And the way that I've done this is I've kind of, I think of the agency as being a collective. And so there's a core of about half a dozen people that are essentially full-time, right? But then there's an extended team of specialists who've got their own businesses, but who I know well enough and trust them. And I bring them on to do specialist things, like, for example, public relations. And that allows me to sort of add to existing relationships, or just transform the relationship so that the relationship morphs according to the client's needs. So what we start off doing might not be what we're doing with them a year or two later, but we continue to have a relationship and to be of service to them.
Makes sense. Especially, every business are always solving complex, challenging problems. If you have a great relationship and if you're able to help in an area like that, that's a really smart way to grow and to maintain sort of that valuable relationship.
Yeah. I mean, typically our point of entry is account-based marketing. So but what happens is, over the course of the relationship, this is, hey, could you help us with this? And that's where, fun enough, we could.
Yeah. I love that. So previous to recording, we actually had a chat about how you grow the agency and how you attract new healthcare clients. And you had some pretty interesting ideas and things you guys do. Would you mind just kind of talking broadly about how do you grow and how do you find new clients?
Well, I'll give you a little story about how it actually kind of backed into it, because it wasn't my plan. So I did a lot of preparation to launch the company, and what I was going to do was, launch it, go to HIMSS, the annual show, and I was going to walk the floor, see all, reconnect with various friends and sort of network, and that was how I was going to get customers. Then I was going to go to another couple of health tech shows, and I was going to do this globally. And I launched the company on March 6th at noon, and at March 6th at 12:01, HIMSS, the big annual trade show, was cancelled. And then South by Southwest was cancelled, and then HIMSS International was cancelled, and so I was like, this is interesting. And so it forced me to do something I've always wanted to do, is take a much more content-led approach to marketing. And what we've developed is what I call my four-corner marketing strategy. So I'll take you through the four corners. So the cornerstone of it is content. So we write a blog post every week, an article, and we publish that across multiple channels. We have a podcast. It's called the Health Tech Marketing Show. We do that like this on podcast and on YouTube as well. And then we then turn that into written content as well. And so we're always publishing content. We've produced hundreds of pieces of content in the last 3 years. So that's the first cornerstone. The second is a very intentional strategy with SEO. So one of the things that I personally invested in was an SEO consultant who's actually now part of the team to help me figure out what words we were going to try and dominate. And what's happened as a result of that, combined with the content, is that our traffic has gone up 10x over 2 years. And I would say 70% of the traffic we get on the website is through non-branded keywords. So that means basically 70% of the people who come to the website have never heard of us when they get there, but until they get there. The third aspect to it is social media. So I view social media as like it's our channel, it's our TV, it's like, I used to call it the Adam channel, but it's the Healthlaunchpad channel. And so I'd send out connection requests every day. I work really hard on following the right people and trying to build a relationship so that I get following back, and that builds up the following. Yeah. I publish, I post on LinkedIn every day. I just use LinkedIn to the max. And I do that because it basically amplifies all of the content. And then the third thing is partnership. So, for example, I've got a partnership with HIMSS where we've been an educational partner on marketing for 3 years. And there are other companies that we've partnered with as well. And that helps to sort of extend out to their audience. And I know it works because I've analyzed the source of business. And so 50% of the business comes through referrals. And the other 50% is cold business, which has come in inbound. And the people say, so for example, a client the other day, a new client started with us. And I said, so how did you hear about us? And he said, well, I watched one of your webinars, I think about a year ago. And I've been following, I Googled Healthcare ABM and I came to it, and I've been following you ever since, but it was never the right time, and now's the right time. And about half the business has come that way. And then on the referral side, it strongly influences that. And so it's the four corners: content, SEO, social, and partnership.
Agency owners, in 2024, do you want to finally escape founder-led sales? My book, Anyone, Not Everyone, gives you a unique solution to a big problem that digital agency owners face, serving too many types of clients. In my book, I guide you through my proven 5-step process, helping you to transform from a generalist to a vertical market specialist. The best part is the methods in this book are simple, authentic, and effective. It's been endorsed by well-known author Dr. Benjamin Hardy, legendary marketer Aaron Ross, positioning expert April Dunford, gifting expert John Rulin, as well as many leading agency owners and thought leaders. So whether you're a seasoned agency owner or just getting started out, my book, Anyone, Not Everyone, is your ultimate resource to unlock your agency's potential and scale revenue. The book launches in March, and the good news is that you can go to my website right now and sign up to be notified when it launches. You'll also get access to some early bonuses just by signing up to be notified today. Go to anyonenoteveryone.com That's anyoneNotEveryone.com. Now back to the show. I'd love to learn a little bit more about the partnership piece because it's interestingly very overlooked from at least in my experience, from an agency perspective who's looking to specialize in a vertical. HIMSS, as you've mentioned now, is my understanding is it's a technology related healthcare association. They have a huge conference where everyone comes out.
Yep.
And you, through your tech company, you had a presence at their shows. Maybe did you have a relationship with that time, or was this a new?
Yeah, I'd been exactly. I'd been a customer, but this was actually sort of when COVID happened. You probably experienced this too. I joined a bunch of networking groups, and it was an old friend of mine, a guy I used to work with at Ogilvy, 1,000 years ago. And he had this networking group of people who got together on Fridays, and we just talk about, on Zoom, a big Zoom call. And there was somebody on it who happened to be on HIMSS's advisory board. And she said, look, I think I'd like to introduce you to them. And so I got connected in with them. And it was at the time when they were looking to create new programs for their clients where they could actually educate them about things like account-based marketing. And that's how it got started. Yeah. And so they sponsor a lot of what we do together. But there are others as well. Like, for example, I did some work with this ABM company called Bombora, and I've had some other partnerships as well. They're hard to make sustainable. There's a lot of partnerships you drift in and out of. And it's something I think of the four. I think of the four corners. It's the one where I don't think we've quite fully cracked it, but we're probably further along than many companies.
Well, I'll share an anecdote from my time at Scorpion, which was a agency that focused on like 7 or 8 verticals, depending on how you define them. And within legal, let's call that an industry. There are personal injury attorneys and criminal defense attorneys and family law attorneys. Each of those have their own associations and mini associations and groups and conferences. And what we made the mistake, not fatal, but I would say it was definitely a wasteful decision, was we just joined a lot of associations by, filling out the online membership form and paying the fee. We were, a vendor on their list. And what we realized pretty soon was we weren't getting any value out of any of the associations that we had paid to be a part of, that we were also not investing in, right? So the idea that it sounds like for HIMSS, you're providing them with educational material, you're helping them to further their own cause. And I likened it to it as like, it's like joining a gym and not actually going to go work out. You're not going to get any results that way. So the advice I give is
you really do. And I tell you, this is something which is, from my software days, I was burnt by a lot of partnerships. And I remember, Verizon was courting us to become a partner. And I thought, this is really good. This could make us. And it went through the process. We had to fill out all these forms and all this process. And then it was like, we actually got to the point of consummating it. And I realized at that point, the partnership was basically, we bought their data from them, and then we could sell that data. And they wouldn't really guarantee anything in return. So I said, well, why is this a partnership? Well, you get to buy our data at a discount. I don't want your data. I just want you to promote me.
Exactly. They're both.
We might do.
Yeah.
We'll do that. You can be, in our booth at, a trade show, or whatever. I was like, it's like.
So I'm curious, do you do ABM for your own business?
Yes, we do. Good. The funny thing is a little bit of shoemaker's children, because, because we have heavily focused on inbound, and the inbound's worked. So, we haven't had an urgency to do it, but we have been doing it for the last year. And one of the things actually, so another partner is an ABM platform called Propensity. And so when we work with clients, they don't actually need to go out and buy an ABM platform like a demand base or anything like that, because they can have it as a service with us, and we use that for ourselves. And so, for example, I know we've got a target account list. So we've gone through the hundreds of companies out there that are healthcare technology, and we've come up with a list, a defined target account list that we think is sort of our ideal customer profile. and we use the intent data, so third-party intent data, to identify who appears to be in market for the types of things that we do. And then we run advertising to them. And then in addition to that, we know when they've been on the website. And then in addition to that, they are sort of I've got a list within Sales Navigator of the marketing people within those. And I'm nurturing those relationships. And, so for example, there's all sorts of things that we do to try and get close. I would say, that I didn't say we haven't cracked it. I mean, inbound, I think we've got a good engine going. On the ABM side of things, like many of our clients, we're still, perfecting it for ourselves.
Yeah.
But, we're very excited about doing it. And it's, we're getting some traction with it.
Do you have a salesperson on staff, or is it mostly yourself who's managing the new relations, like closing new deals?
So there's another principal in the firm, a guy called Bob Blount. Bob, the way I think about Bob is like, I call myself like a marketing guy who knows a lot about selling, because I've done a lot of selling. And Bob is like, as a sales guy who knows a hell of a lot about marketing. So Bob was a very senior sales guy at Dell for many years, but he also worked in healthcare technology. He started some health tech companies.
Awesome.
Worked in various aspects of health tech. And some of them actually were agencies where he was essentially in a kind of a strategy and sales role. And so he's helping to expand the business. And what's been great about having him as part of the team is, in addition to having somebody else to go out and sell, he brings a different skill set. And so, I sort of, we've got a new offering around the whole area of enablement, which basically means helping sales and marketing teams improve their performance and their processes. And that's where things like a customer experience playbook comes into it. So, so between the two of us, we're out there doing all the selling. And then I've just got some fantastic people that we work with who are on the team who join me in sales meetings.
It's interesting. I talk to a lot of agency owners, and some of them are very happy owning the sales motion. In fact, they demand it because relationships are so key and critical, and setting up the right expectations and all of that is part of what you get by working with this agency. And there are others that prefer to work with the sales team. And I ask because it's always interesting to hear, the experience of hiring sales as a founder or CEO who's not done that before. There's always so much learning there. I imagine through your tech company, you've already went through that. But
I got a couple of anecdotes for you. So quick one was, in my software company, we hired multiple salespeople and they all failed. The only people who could sell was myself and the partner. And unfortunately, it meant that the business wasn't scalable. So it got to a sort of medium size, and then we sold it. And so, I look at that as a failure, actually, not as a sort of anything that reflected well on me. Interestingly, so early on in the life of Healthlaunchpad, when it was really just me and a couple of other people doing a bit of freelance work, I was a fractional CMO. And I was hired as a fractional CMO for this telehealth company. And as I joined them, they said, we're in the process of hiring an agency. And we've got this agency who will remain nameless. They are one of the hottest digital agencies. They're one of the top inbound agencies. And the sales experience was fantastic. I mean, just like it's like this is a SaaS company with my client. They were saying they were taking notes and thinking that this is stuff we got to be doing. Like they were using Vidyard, and they were using their technique with their closing. It was fabulous. After we hired them, and they told us, they got tons of healthcare experience. The healthcare experience was there was somebody who had maybe 2 or 3 years working experience. Smart young guy, but very green, who had worked sort of like in an ancillary role on one client, which had nothing to do with what we did, and nobody else on the team had a clue about healthcare. Okay, so all right, we'll teach you healthcare. The experience of working with them was so bad that we had they wanted a year-long retainer. We gave them a 6-month retainer. We actually fired them after 60 days. And we negotiated out, and we got to the point where we made their life so unpleasant they just wanted out anyway. And I then turned to the CEO of the company I was doing as a fractional CMO. I said, look, I'm so incensed by this experience. I've got a group of freelancers. I'm actually going to make this real. I'm going to turn this into an agency, and we'll basically be your agency on a marketing as a service basis. And he said, all right, fine, go ahead and do it. And so he said, and it'll cost you less too, by the way. And he said, well, I've got nothing to lose. Otherwise, you've got something to lose because you screw up, I'm going to fire you. It's like, all right, don't worry. And that's how we got started. So I called it my spite agency. Nice. I don't know if you're familiar with, Larry David's Curb Your Enthusiasm. Yeah. He had his Spite coffee shop.
Oh, yeah, Spite.
Called Latte Larry's.
Yes.
So this is there's Mark Jones and Latte Larry. This is my Spite agency. I was so incensed. And it was expensive too. And it was so bad. And this agency is very successful. So they probably I think we were very small for them. So they gave us sort of the, very junior team and said, here's the playbook, go do what you're going to do. But yeah, it was awful.
And you've been, if you're around long enough, you go through at least one of those experiences with an agency, a really slick sales team and experience. And then on the back end, it's a different world. So, but gosh, you just reminded me just how truly important investing in a great sales process, preceded by a wonderful marketing team and a marketing messaging differentiation and all that stuff, but leading into a wonderful world-class sales experience is just truly priceless for any business. I come from a sales background, and so, yeah.
Yeah. So, and actually, I have a sales process that I have used for 15 years. So different stages, and I use it to forecast the pipeline. And it gets us focused on where we are in the sales process, and it works. And I can forecast with a relatively high degree of confidence. It's certainly not 100%, but it's better than
If a salesperson said that someone was 100%, they would lose credibility with me. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So taking like a kind of step back a little bit with regard to just taking a vertical market approach, you were in the agency space at Organic, I believe, and then Health.
Well, Ogilvy. I worked at Ogilvy. I worked at Organic.
Yeah.
I worked at Gray.
Definitely deep in the agency space. Yeah, deep in the the big agencies. Yep. And you made your way into health tech, software, and then now you're an agency. If you were advising, let's say, a junior founder in an agency space who's thinking about specializing in a vertical, could be healthcare, could be, hospital systems, or probably not, could be anything. What advice would you have for them as they're thinking about taking more of a vertical approach?
Pick a niche and then find a niche within the niche and make yourself really good at that, because it's very easy to, I think, I almost made this mistake of saying, health tech's too small. No, it's not. It's hundreds of billions of dollars. And there's a big need. And I don't have an aspiration to create the next, WPP. I'm quite happy if this is, we're doing really well. We're a 7-figure agency.
Yeah.
And, I'd maybe get to 8 figures, but I don't want to be this to be $100, $200 million. I have no aspiration to do that. It's just no interest. So find your niche and then figure out what your niche is within the niche. So our niche within the niche is ABM. And so that's, we are the healthcare ABM experts. And that the reason why you want to do that is that as long as you've identified the need. So there was a need for ABM. I knew there was a need based on the work that I was doing with HIMSS. And once you figure that out and you're expert at it, business will then start coming to you. That's why, we do well on inbound, is because, people are interested in that. And so, be the number one. If you're good at SEO, go be the number one SEO agency in healthcare. There's probably a handful of agencies that are already doing it, but you're competing, like I said, there's I don't know, less than 10, maybe less than 5 companies in health tech, agencies in health tech that are competing for the business of well over 1,000 potential customers out there. Most of my clients I'd never heard of before they became clients. And so, your competition is most likely not going to be other agencies. It's going to be in-house capabilities. I tell you, in the last year, I started to drift. I just said, hey, I wrote this book called Total Customer Growth, which is a general ABM book. And I wrote it for a number of reasons, but one of which was give us an ability to get out of healthcare and to serve non-healthcare businesses. And I tell you what, it was sort of this blinding glimpse of the obvious, which is we're really good at ABM and we're really good at healthcare.
Yeah.
Well, once you get rid of out, then it's like, well, then I'm really good at ABM. And there are hundreds of agencies out there that are really good at ABM. Yeah. And there are tens of thousands of companies. It's like, it suddenly becomes hard to figure out who you're going after and why they should do business with you.
Yeah, I think about it in terms of, if you're going to specialize, you can specialize in two ways. You can specialize in what you do, ABM in your case, and who you do it for. Hospital systems. When you combine, when you're an expert in both, and you specialize against both, you see the evidence in your business where you're a in a small pond, small competitive pond. There's 1,000 big businesses or funded businesses that are willing, that have the need that you solve, and you're competing against, as you said, a small group of competitors, and you're able to in 2 years, maybe in change, you're able to, from an SEO perspective, be able to rank competitively, get quality leads coming in on keywords that otherwise I'm sure would be very hard to be able to rank for, especially in 2 years. So I think that what you've done is a great example of specializing in both, what you do and how you and who you serve in a way that's really working for you.
Yeah, and the other thing is I'm really enjoying it, but I'm enjoying it because I'm continuing to learn. The fact I've been doing, I've been in health tech. I've been in health tech for 15 years, which actually for many people is not that long. But I'm still learning a lot about the market because the market's evolving, and the problems that we're solving are interesting enough. So it fuels the passion of the team, right? We're solving interesting problems. We're not getting bored. Just like, okay, we're going to build another, HubSpot website for another client. Right?
Well, let me ask you. I mean, you went through the trouble of writing a book. I'm finishing writing a book, and it is like very painful. At least it is for me, in a good way, maybe. But
what's for me?
Yeah. And with an idea that, hey, this is going to help us to expand outside of healthcare. And through that process, you realize, truly how special the thing you've built is. Those are my words, but effectively that's what I'm getting.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
What are the downsides or the negatives or potential negatives of taking a niche or a verticalized approach in your mind?
We'll never be $100 million agency. And as that's something I don't care about, it's not a problem. I can't think of any other downsides. I guess the other downside is, the budgets are not huge, right? So there are no IBMs and Procter and Gambles, that spend, P&G probably spends, well, I think 10 years ago, they were spending over $1 billion a year in advertising. So now it's probably 2 or 3 billion, right? There's no, I haven't found yet the sort of the golden goose health tech clients that will support a 200-person team. So when I was at Organic, I ran the Bank of America account, and at one point we had 200 people working on the business. Yeah. I don't think that exists in health tech. So to me personally, that's like, I don't have a last thing I want to do is run a 200-person team, be dependent on one piece of business. But it does mean that you've got to stay nimble, right? And so maintaining long-term relationships is much harder than it was in my big agency days. And although, from what I hear of people working in the big agencies, it's even hard for them to keep clients for a long time. So I find that we don't get fired with clients. They just take it in-house. They just kind of drift away because they just say, "Oh, this is great. Thank you very much for teaching us how to do that and introducing us to your all the various sort of second-party resources that you use. We'll just do it ourselves."
Which makes sense why your approach of identifying adjacent problems that you could solve, which is brilliant. I have one last question for you. What's your motivation?
I just love what I do. I mean, I'm at a stage in life where I could, if I wanted to, retire. Sold the company, wasn't that great an exit, but I don't necessarily have to work. I just love it. I mean, it's still fun working with clients, working on problems, and it's still, I'm proud of the work that we're doing. Feel like we're making a difference. There's someone else actually. There is one other thing, which is because I don't really, is that there's sort of three parts to the business. It's how we make money, which is consulting. Then there's two sort of passion things that we do. One is education. So we do coaching, and all the content we create is all educational. The third aspect to it is I sort of by sort of a happenstance ended up creating a little network of healthcare CMOs. I did a webinar with HIMSS. Actually, it was a panel of health tech marketing people, and they really got on together well. And I was the moderator of it. I said, "Hey, do you want to kind of keep this going? Should we?" I said, "Oh yeah, let's do it." So I said, "Well, I'll organize it." And so we've grown this, and now it's actually a legit network and we get together once a month, and we'll talk about an issue that they want to talk about. And now we've actually got a group of them are now working with me to run it. And I've no idea where that will go. I don't particularly necessarily want to commercialize it, but I actually, I'm helping these. It's sort of by creating this that it's helping them network with each other, and so and they're helping each other try to find jobs and look out for leads and that kind of thing, and that's pretty satisfying. Yeah. It feels pretty good.
You use the term "make a difference," and I think that you've certainly made a difference here. Thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your wisdom and your experience with the listeners, with myself. I learned a lot, Adam. So thank you very much for coming on the show.
Corey, my pleasure. Really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, folks, that's it for today. I'm Corey Quinn, and I hope you join me again next time for the Vertical Go-to-Market Podcast. If you receive value from this show, I would love a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. Thanks, and we'll see you soon.